Alright guys, a lot of you probably missed it. I was watching the THQ Nordic's latest showcase, and right in between a few remakes and some throwaway announcements, there was this one trailer, and it was just a minute and a half of some gameplay that really caught my attention. It's called Fatekeeper, and if you blinked, you probably thought it was some generic fantasy RPG, but when you took a closer look, something felt different. First of all, they actually showed gameplay here, and there was actual weight to the combat and physics. It showed you launching enemies into the walls with spells, kicking them into spikes. You were throwing barrels across the room with telekinesis spells, and allegedly this was not pre-rendered, it was real gameplay. And the more I looked into Fatekeeper, the more it started to feel like something we haven't seen in a little while. So I want to break it down and tell you everything we know about Fatekeeper so far. So from everything I've read, Fatekeeper is a first-person fantasy RPG built around a combat system that actually rewards player agency. It blends melee weapons, magic, and environmental interaction. It seems really impactful and physical and brutal and constantly giving you tools to play with. It's being developed by a small studio called Paraglacial, made up of ex-Grimlore game devs, the same folks behind SpellForce 3, and it's being published by THQ Nordic, which has a pretty mixed but interesting track record with the mid-budget RPGs. This one is being built in Unreal Engine 5, and from what I've seen, the engine is doing a lot of heavy lifting, both in terms of visuals and in the way of combat. But don't worry, it's not open world. Instead, it's built around a handcrafted semi-linear type levels. That decision alone puts it in a different category from most modern fantasy games trying to chase the massive world thing. Fatekeeper is clearly going for focus over scale, and that is a really good sign, being that Unreal Engine has a very poor reputation right now. Paraglacial is a new studio, but they're not new developers. Most of the team previously worked at Grimlore Games, best known for SpellForce 3, like I was saying before, which was a tactical RPG RTS hybrid that actually had pretty solid foundations in systems and player choice. This time around, they've downsized, sharpened their scope, and they're building something with a much tighter focus. With THQ Nordic publishing, there's a bit of a wildcard element. The publisher has put out both hidden gems and total flops, but when they back smaller creative teams, the result can be surprisingly strong. Think of games like Biomutant and Outcast 2, games that weren't always polished but brought something weird and interesting to the table. Here's where Fatekeeper really started to stand out for me in this trailer. The combat looks like it's truly designed around physics, not just flashy animations or canned interactions, but actual real-time manipulation of enemies, objects, and space. You've got traditional melee weapons like swords, cleavers, and axes, but what matters more is how you use them. You can shove enemies into traps, knock them off ledges, blast them with what looks like a wind spell, and send them ragdolling across a dungeon. It looks like there's magic, but not just like usual fireballs and things like that. From the footage, we've seen telekinetic pulls, explosive pushes, and what might be gravity-based manipulation like slow-mo or environmental disruption. The combat flow looks actually gritty and messy in a really good way. It looks like something where you'll actually be reacting to enemy movements and trying to control the space around you. It probably won't be all physics-based though. One clip I'm seeing here shows like a clean stealth takedown, which suggests that quieter, more tactical playstyles might be viable too. That opens the door for different approaches depending on how you want to build your character. The biggest takeaway I got here is that the game wants you to engage with its mechanics. It won't just hand you tools to look cool, it'll actually push you to think. Fatekeeper won't be open world, and that's probably the best decisions this game could make. Instead, it's built around handcrafted levels, tight, atmospheric, environmental design to push you into combat puzzles, exploration challenges, and environmental traps. You're moving through crumbling ruins, underground corridors, overgrown forests, and other grim, grounded spaces that all serve the gameplay loop. It doesn't look like there's going to be things like mini-map spam or like icons all over your screen, just layered spaces that you're encouraged to explore at your own pace. From what we've seen, these areas are designed for interaction. You might find a ledge to knock someone off, a trap to bait a creature into, or a hidden relic tucked behind a destructible wall. And that brings us to one of the more interesting systems that's already confirmed, item inspection. Some gear in the game won't reveal its true effects or stats until you stop and physically inspect it in your inventory. That's a subtle touch, but it tells you something about the game's design, and it rewards curiosity and actually interacting with the elements in the game. Here's a few things that I read about that are confirmed. Fatekeeper lets you shape your playstyle using combat stats and spell schools. The devs specifically calling out stealth, agility, and sorcery as the main pillars of your build. We don't know yet whether these function like rigid classes or loose archetypes, but based on what's shown, it looks like you can lean heavily into different approaches: slow and brutal, fast and evasive or spell heavy tactics here. There's also the Inspectable gear system I mentioned earlier. Certain weapons or armor have hidden effects that only show up when you examine them carefully. That adds another layer of depth to the builds, especially if those hidden traits tie into your chosen path. We haven't seen skill trees or respec mechanics yet, so all this is still speculation, but even in its early form, Fatekeeper looks like it's offering room for creative builds. The enemy variety looks pretty good. I like the design of the different creatures you saw in the trailer. We've seen like orc-like foot soldiers, lizard beasts, and multi-legged monsters, and one huge armored minotaur-like creature that seems to function like a boss encounter. That minotaur in particular shows off some promising design. It charges, it shrugs off damage, and it looks like the kind of fight that needs more than just swinging until it dies. Enemies react to physics. They stumble when they get hit, ragdolled when thrown, and can be manipulated by your spells. That might sound basic, but in an RPG context, it opens up a ton of tactical options, especially if enemies have specific types of weaknesses. No info on how smart the AI is, or even if the enemy adapts to your playstyle, but even if they don't, the combination of variety, just how creative the enemies could attack you, would keep the game very interesting and fresh. I, for one, can't wait to engage with this combat system. Now, of course, Fatekeeper is being built in Unreal Engine 5, and the graphics look absolutely mind-blowing. The lighting is harsh and moody, the environments feel ancient and decayed. Spell effects like wind blasts and telekinetic slams don't just look like particle clouds. They feel heavy, like they have some serious force behind them. They send bodies flying, knock over objects. You can toss barrels at creatures and it just explodes in like a wooden confetti. No details yet on system requirements or optimization, so if you're worried about performance, that is fair. But if the final product looks anything like this, it'll be one of the better looking mid-budget RPGs. Here's what we know about the release information. Fatekeeper is launching in early access, planned for the winter of 2025, and it's coming to PC via Steam. That's it. No console release even mentioned, no Epic exclusivity, no demo or beta announced, just a simple early access launch window and a live Steam page. If you're playing on the PS5 or Xbox, you'll probably be waiting a little while for this game to come. From what I've seen so far, this one is going to be PC only. It doesn't look like Fatekeeper is trying to be the next Skyrim, and it definitely doesn't have that sprawling open world, and I hope it's not just interested in throwing a million side quests at you. If anything, it's more in line with games like Dark Messiah, Thief, or Dishonored, or Prey, titles that focus on systems and player expression inside tight reactive spaces. It's part of a growing wave of games stepping away from the bloated open world design and instead doubling down on the interactivity, moment-to-moment tension, and mechanical depth, which for me is a breath of fresh air. I think the graphical fidelity that most studios are going for with open world is just a recipe for disaster and a big disappointment when games finally get released and they're completely unoptimized. So it looks like Fatekeeper is just trying to do what it does extremely well, and that's why I think it'll be one of the better first-person RPG type fantasy games out there. So yeah, Fatekeeper doesn't have a massive marketing campaign or a big studio name behind it, but it does have a unique identity, some genuinely exciting mechanics by the looks of it, and a clear vision for what kind of experience it's trying to deliver. This one is definitely worth keeping on your radar. I'll be following it all the way through early access, so if you want more updates, gameplay breakdowns, or just deep dives on weird games that not many people have heard about, make sure you stick around, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, follow me, and I appreciate you for being here. Have yourselves a very nice day.